Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Executive Career Chat here. I am Lisa Rangel with Chameleon Resumes, and joining me is my cohort in crime, Krista McDonald, who is going to run the scenes from behind the, or run everything from behind the scenes. So if you need help with anything or having, if somebody having connectivity issues, just reach out to Krista. You can reach out to her at Krista@chameleonresumes.com or, put anything in the chat and she'll take care of it. And I want to also welcome you and introduce to all of you Kenneth Johnson, East Coast Executives. And today him and I are going to be chatting about why execs feel stuck and how to fix that. So thank you so much, Ken. Glad you're here, Kenneth.
Excited to be here. Thank you so very much, Lisa. Krista, I appreciate all the support. Thank you.
So we're gonna jump in. Actually, can you tell us a little bit about you? Why I asked you to be here? Because I think you're amazing at what you do, and nobody's gonna say how to do that, how you do what you do better than you. And then we'll jump into everything.
Yeah, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of a company called East Coast Executives. We're an executive search firm with a focus on diverse placements. We've been doing this work for 24 years. Our 24th anniversary was September 3rd. So we're still excited. We're looking forward to making it to 25. That's the work I do. Companies come to us when they're looking to add diverse talent to their recruitment pipelines. When I'm not doing that work, I'm doing work that very much aligns with the work we do as recruitment professionals. I host a show for the National Urban League called the Digital Career Success Series. It's a professional development resource for their young professionals, and we provide just resources and subject matter experts on a bi-weekly basis to share information. I'm the organizer of TEDx Harlem. That's my way of amplifying the voices of this wonderful neighborhood that we call home, Harlem, New York City. And I'm a father and I do all of that stuff as well, right? So excited to be here and share information. I love this.
I'm super excited that you're here. Um, and feel free to network in the chat, and we want everyone to be respectful. Um, Ken's background has been available for the entire time that we have advertised this. So this is what we stand for, and this is why we're here. So, Ken, why are executives feeling stuck nowadays? It's definitely a challenging market, and people are feeling stuck. They're feeling afraid. If they're working, they don't want to make a move, and if they're not working, they're not sure how to find great opportunities. So, why don't we dive into that?
Yeah, I think high level, it's a really simple thing. We're uh, recruiters and career professionals, we're calling it job hugging. So I think they're job hugging, honestly, Lisa, because for them, they think the market's broken, but the job market isn't broken. It's
Yeah.
just kind of revealing uh, who the leaders are and who's showing up, right? Who's leading from fear and who's leading with strategy. And I think you'll find that the people that are doing some of the job hugging, they're working from fear. Many executives are job hugging, not because they love their work, but because uncertainty feels safer than possibility. We
Yeah.
always encourage here at East Coast Executives, the people that we work with, and we work on the company side primarily recruiting executives, but you build those relationships. And you can tell by the people that take your calls and where it goes from there, who's job hugging and who's really operating strategically to find the best opportunities.
And that's, I think, why I want you here and why I've asked you to be here is because although you work for companies, and I think that's a clear distinction everyone has to realize with third-party recruiters is your client, so to speak, is the company paying you to find specific talent that meets the requirements that they're looking for. However, you have such incredible insights on what's happening with candidates, and I want you to share for our questions today what you see from the candidate side. So this way, our candidates, both of our shared audiences here today, can then present themselves better as candidates and can navigate the market more effectively, even outside of getting placed by a third-party recruiter, because not everyone's going to get placed by a third-party recruiter. So your insights are crucial, and I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here as well. You're right. I talk to senior leaders every week who are brilliant, well, pretty much every day. And most of them are brilliant, but some of them are stuck, right? They built comfort around predictability.
Hmm.
But I always share with them, growth doesn't live there. That's not where the growth is at. Movement is momentum, right? We talk
Right.
about this. Movement is momentum. So if you're not evolving, you're quietly existing in relevance. And I know we've had conversations in the past. I host a radio show called the Kenneth L. Johnson Show on 106.5 FM in Philly, and you've been a guest on that show.
Yes,
And we
everybody note
spoke
that.
about and watch that. It's on the YouTube channel, the Kenneth L. Johnson Show. Lisa's show was great. But if you're not evolving, you're quietly exiting relevance. You have to be here using the tools and the resources that are available today for leaders to make themselves visible and present. And we all know who they are. The people that are on LinkedIn, kind of sharing how they're leading teams and how they're being innovative and things of that nature. Those are the things that allow you to be found as an executive in this crazy landscape that we're existing in right now.
What do you, what can you share that companies are looking for in leaders, especially, focusing on this particular year? I think, I find that like for the last 5 years, every year I've said the job search is hard for very different reasons. I feel like I've said the same thing for last 5 years, but this year is hard for people. What are you seeing that companies are wanting to see in their executive level candidates that's causing them to make a decision and hire somebody versus when they don't see these traits, they just pause and sometimes don't even make a decision.
Let's frame it this way: the good companies, and those are the ones that we've been working with.
Hmm.
The good companies really are looking for the core leadership skill sets, right? So
Right,
you're going to want to have leaders that understand what a P&L is all about. You're going to
right.
want to have leaders that can show empathy, right? Emotional
Hmm.
intelligence, really important stuff right now. But
Right.
also leaders that are innovative and willing and able to adapt. And I think the probably the core foundational piece to that is authentic leaders.
Hmm.
I've been having some conversations with people just about trust. Minda
Right.
Hunt's doing some great work around trust and the languages of trust. But I think that foundationally, that's a good thing. Boundaries. Nicole Smith talks about boundaries all the time, right?
She does great work, yeah.
She's a leadership coach at Smitten. She does great work, but she's talking a lot about boundaries. And I think those are some of the things, authenticity, trust, leadership, empathy, of course, being of a financial mind and able to kind of lead your team, right, in the
Hmm.
right direction. I think those are some of the things that people are looking for from their leaders. Yeah, it's a lot, but leadership carries a heavy burden.
It does. And me writing stuff down on the side here, you mentioned trust and willing to change. And those may sound like two different, disparate things, but I think a willingness to change and doing it vulnerably from a position of leadership, right? Because let's face it, I feel like everything's changing every damn hour. And it can be scary. It can be nerve-wracking. And I think being able to share that vulnerably but diplomatically with your teams, and they see that you're going through it with them. And I think that adds to trust. I mean, what are your thoughts on being able to demonstrate trust in very pragmatic, tangible ways? Because they
You
can be
know,
thrown around like, just buzzwords, but like, what does it really mean for these companies, and how can we walk away with something here today that makes them feel like people feel like they can exhibit that
yeah, I think
ability to gain the trust?
it's extremely important, right? And for a lot of different reasons. We're in a space right now, and listen, as we're having this conversation, we're in the midst of a government shutdown, right?
Right.
People are extremely concerned about life. Like
Hmm.
it just isn't about a job because all they're hearing is there's tons of layoffs in the workplace, right? They're holding on to their jobs. We just spoke about job hugging from the leadership perspective, but
Hmm.
even that drills down to their teams, right? So now you have to trust that your leader is able to guide you guys through this trying time, but also able to provide you with honest, clear, lucid feedback that can, one, help you get better or at least
Hmm.
position yourself for your next opportunity by maybe providing stretch assignments and things of that nature. So trust is developed through someone showing you that they're worthy of that. You just don't
Hmm.
walk in and get that. And I think a lot of people think, because they're the VP or the whatever in leadership, right?
Right. Sea level,
That,
yeah.
that automatically comes with trust, right? They're a
Hmm.
C-level executive. But listen, people aren't going for that anymore. You have to
No.
show them. You show them that through investing in their careers as well as your own.
Hmm. Um, Curtis, I have like three things I want to ask you all at once, and I know that's not how you do an interview. So, um, what we were talking about before we got on the show, it's you mentioned, and I'm going to just remind you that you mentioned this to me, to me and Krista during the pre-show. You said that there's always looking for opportunity no matter what the market is, right? And I think I phrased it during COVID as like there's ethical opportunity in chaos. You
Yes.
phrased it in I think, a different, more elegant way, but um, it's training. I think it's training ourselves to think no matter what is before us, where is the opportunity, and how can I deliver on that, ethically and effectively? Like, what are some ways that you encourage people to be able to find that type of opportunity for themselves?
Yeah, it's interesting, Lisa. The opportunities. So, of course, it's the starting point, right? Where do you start your opportunity search?
Hmm.
It doesn't start when things get bad, right? It starts way before the chaos happens.
Hmm.
Positioning yourself on some of these platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or even if you're really networking. We spoke several times about just the importance of doubling down on people and building relationships. Well,
Yeah.
guess what your strongest shield during chaos is your relationships.
Hmm.
Have information and you want people to share information with you. And usually that comes through authentic relationships. We're a
Hmm.
search firm, right? So we like to know in advance all the information we can about what's happening at an organization, who this person is reporting to, because people trust us to place them in great opportunities. Has it always been, that every placement's the perfect fit? No, but I think as long as we have more information and we positioned ourselves for the opportunity, we'll be ready when
Hmm.
it comes. And I think that's the key to taking advantage of what we'll call chaotic times, right?
Right.
Back to the relationships you've created in your space, sector, vertical, industry, whatever you choose to call it, uh,
Hmm.
and how people view your work within that sphere. So, what are
Right.
you showing them? And sometimes I always say this career branding thing, I had mentioned to you earlier, I did a career branding workshop for the National Urban League Thursday in Brooklyn for the
Right.
Whitney Young Conference, all leaders in the building. But the key thing that we drilled down on was really career branding through social media. And by
Right.
social, I'm including LinkedIn in that conversation, right? But how are you showing up? How are you people seeing you? Are they engaging? Are you engaging? And are you
Hmm.
building those relationships? Great to build relationships in person, but listen, the world we live in now, you also have to build on digitally. So
Absolutely. Which actually leads to a question from the audience. My buddy Alex has a question, and also I want everyone who's been posting questions earlier. I've been noting them. If you see me writing things down, so we're going to get to them in just a bit. But I wanted to make sure that this question from Alex kind of fluidly goes into what you just mentioned about being represented digitally. My buddy Alex asks, Kenneth, how are you as a recruiter utilizing AI to identify the ideal candidates? Appreciate your
yeah,
answer.
I
The
love
AI question that we were definitely getting to today.
it's always out here, right?
That's
It's
it.
everywhere. It's everywhere.
That's
Listen,
it.
it was Alex, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Alex, listen, AI has changed how we find talent. I won't deny that, right? But it hasn't changed why we choose it. At the
Mhm.
executive level, leadership gets hired through trust. We just spoke about it, visibility, relationships, right? So
Right.
AI kind of filters the first impression for us. It can't access leadership presence, but it can block you from ever being seen, right? You have to get
Right.
through the systems that exist to let your candidacy be known. And that's why executives need to make sure their digital footprint speaks before they even enter the room. Really
Hmm.
important thing, right? For us, we consider ourselves a bridge between technology and humanity, right?
Hmm.
I'm not anti AI. I'm not anti AI at all, but I'm
Yeah.
very much pro awareness. And I understand how you humanize leadership in a digital first process, and that's extremely important. So, Alex, we use a lot of the tools that help us source, Lisa, we spoke about this earlier,
Right.
source a larger population of candidates,
Hmm.
some amazing. But then we still have to drill down into their backgrounds, kind of build our case for them as we present them to our client companies. So it's changed. But with that change, it's became a lot easier, and the lift is a lot lighter for us as well. Because
Yeah.
look, I've been doing this for 24 years. I'm from the days of grabbing phone books trying to find people. Right, this is how
Yeah.
old I am in this process.
Index cards. I had index cards.
Now I literally can go through on the Rolodex, right? Yeah,
Right,
those.
right. The Rolodex and the index cards. Yeah.
So now I literally can put a search through with some keywords and find out who the players are in the space. But that's why it's so important for people, leaders, to be
Right.
digitally present so they can be found when we do those types of searches.
So, can you define what digitally present means for you
Yeah.
as a recruiter? How an executive should be digitally present? And
Well,
everyone needs to listen to this because this is exactly how you start to be found through these tools that maybe might be a mystery to you.
all right. So we know that there's a billion people on LinkedIn. Literally, there's a billion people,
Hmm.
67 million companies represented. Huge platform to be present, right? I have people that I speak to probably monthly that say, I'm not on LinkedIn. Okay, that's problem number one. Let's work on
Hmm.
that, right? So of course, when
Hmm.
you're looking at any LinkedIn profile, the best real estate on the profile, the most valuable real estate is that headline, right?
Amen.
We talk about how do you optimize that, right? So you're like expertise, role, impact, right? All right,
Hmm.
what's the expertise? Who are you? I'm Kenneth Johnson, president of East Coast Executives, right? What's your role? My role is to assist clients in finding diverse talent, right? What's
Hmm.
the impact? I don't know, 50,000 individuals placed, whatever that may be, and you work through that headline and keyword optimize it. And by that, I'm saying you take the words from your your ideal position description, right? Maybe
Hmm.
even the company website. If you have a bucket list of companies and you just align that through, you can use a word
Hmm.
cloud, you can use GPT, any of the language models, drop that information in, ask them to pick out the keywords in those
Hmm.
documents. You find that, you make sure those keywords get into your about section and you tell that
Right.
as a story. You tell a story about how you're impacting the place you're at now or your industry or whatever it is, and you have those keywords in there, and then a call to action at the end stating that you're available to connect, right?
Yeah, and I add like a phone number or an email address that you're not, I maybe wouldn't put your one use every day because that can get spammed, but go get a Google Voice number, open up a Gmail account that just is something you put publicly and let
Yeah.
people be able to find you by putting that in the about section in case you're not first degree connected, where your contact information is presented.
And you'll be surprised how many senior level executives, C-suite
Hmm.
executives say they ignore that platform.
Hmm.
Look, you can ignore it all you want, but people
Hmm.
like me are there looking for talent like you. And if you're looking for other opportunities, it's probably a good place to be. And if you can be there, since you're there, you might as well engage a little.
Right.
Yeah, so just to job the algorithm, if nothing else.
Hmm.
So it's all interrelated.
No, and I think, at the executive level, I'm on a board of an an agentic AI company that develops AI agents for recruiters, and so much of the administration and the searching is really what's being done by these, AI agents and tools and apps. So it can help you be more effective with the human parts, right? Making sure you know the candidate, make sure that you're making the right match, making sure that it's the right opportunity or candidate because you spent the time listening to them. You're not spending time searching and sorting because a lot of that's being done. I feel like it helps with, you know, uh, can you see me? Am I stuck?
Yeah, you were frozen for a minute. I was
All
trying to
right,
hear.
sorry.
Okay.
I had said that it helps you with it helps you with list building, and this is what I get for doing my seminar in an Airbnb for the first time I think ever. So my
Oh, Lisa, I
apologies.
love it because it was a technology conversation, right? And technology happens. So,
And it
so
falters, right? So Krista was ready to step up with the questions, and she just panicked as I said that. But we just keep moving, and ultimately it comes down to the humans moving things along. So technology is awesome, but it's what you do with it. I wanted to get back to a couple of people's questions. Craig had mentioned when we've talked about fears that, a lot of this AI stuff in general, whether it's knowing how recruiters use it or presenting yourself as an executive that knows how it is to be used in an organization, because that is very important too, which we didn't really talk about. Um, the fears are, maintaining what you have, getting a salary that's, the same or more than what you have, your level of influence. Like if you're at a company now where you're viewed as a go-to person, you go somewhere new, you might lose some of that influence. So these are definitely some of the fears that people contend with and that make them job hug. And, I know I have some thoughts on that statement, but I wanted to ask you, like, clearly people shouldn't just blindly leave those things just to make a move, but like how do you suggest to Craig and others like him, because I know he's not alone in those fears. How do you
yeah.
how do you job search and not job hug?
So the fears are real. It's interesting. Craig's question is interesting because I don't know, 2 weeks ago I had a conversation on my show with Lulu Cycli. Lulu Cycli is a is an attorney. She's a legal counsel for pay scale, right? Big person pushing a lot of the pay transparency stuff. But when you're working with leadership, there's so many ways for compensation to be delivered. And we had a conversation at the Excel Summit 3 weeks ago about this. And it just comes down to what you're looking for, on all the creating a package, right? What
Hmm.
was interesting in the conversation with Lulu, she mentioned that I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of information online regarding salaries, right? And some
Hmm.
of the language models is
Right.
false information, right?
Hmm.
People are coming into their negotiations with false information, right? So it's
Right.
making it hard on both sides, right? And typically it's elevated information, right? The salaries
Hmm.
are higher. So it's making it difficult. All I can say is that I understand the question, I understand the fear, but you can't let fear paralyze you. You have to know, you have to use your network and use, any resource you can to find out solid and sound information. But the point is, you come in with your numbers
Right.
and you speak and you negotiate from there.
Hmm.
And I think that's a real important part. I think if you're comfortable in your skill sets and your ability to tell your story about how you're adding value currently
Right.
and why you deserve a certain number, then all of the other stuff doesn't matter. You'll
No,
figure
the
out
ROI, right? The ROI of paying you what you're asking for, if you can explain the value, like you said, the ROI, then
100%.
it becomes a business decision, not a I'm so senior, I'm worth this decision.
Yes.
Because let's face it, I don't know how old you are, Kenneth, but I'm 55. What do all 55-year-olds have in common? We all have 30 years of experience,
Well,
right? So saying you have 35, 30, 25 years of experience is not selling you, right? Because we all know people who are 55 that are amazing at what they do, and we all know people who are 55 who need to get out of the workforce because they're terrible, right? So it's not about the years of experience that qualify us for anything, but using um, your your ROI, your value. That's how you put it. Conveying your
and,
value, and you can't avoid these questions. You have to hit them head on and be prepared for them.
and Lisa, to be honest, at a certain level, a lot of the job the job movement is happening through conversations and relationships and
Hmm.
opportunity knowledge. And that comes a lot of other things like having real solid information about where
Right,
the pay structure is and what you can kind of get out of that. Because you've done it on the other side, right? You've done
right.
it where you're sitting. So you
Hmm.
have a much clearer understanding of what that looks like. But ultimately, it still does come down to what it is that you want and your
Right,
ability to share why you deserve that.
exactly. So I'm going to ask you a question that has been asked a few times in the chat, and I know you don't do this, but and you certainly won't speak for all recruiters, but why do recruiters ghost?
All right. Okay. So I have my thoughts on this are really interesting, Lisa.
I'm interested. Let's go.
Okay, so I always like to reframe it a little, right?
Hmm.
Not as frustration, but as data and discipline, right? Ghosting isn't rejection. People always view it as rejection. It's
Hmm.
honestly information. To me, it's a signal about where you stand to the people making the hiring decisions, right?
Hmm.
And also what needs refinement, your
Right.
ability to communicate and command the respect to not get ghosted, and
Hmm.
how the process really works, right? So the executives who take it personally, they typically fall behind. The ones who take it professionally improve. So position yourself, where you're honestly looking at the ghosting and saying, okay, how do I need to, what do I need to improve, and you're not going to get this from the recruiters. Don't call the
Right.
recruiter and say, hey,
How
tell
did,
me what
yes.
went wrong. Give me some feedback. Legally, it's hard for them to even do that, right?
Right. Exactly.
But you don't know the inner workings. Listen, the way we recruit and the way companies come to us and then things happen. Hey, they found their ideal candidate through the word of mouth tree, right?
Right.
Something happened. And listen, and a lot of these recruiters, especially in-house recruiters, they're really busy.
Yeah.
They're on to the next field. It's very transactional for them. So I wouldn't take it personally. I would really look at it as data and information, and I wouldn't go screaming and making noise about being ghosted and talking bad about people online. They're not doing it intentionally. Most good recruiters aren't, at least.
So I'm answering somebody in the chat, and I mean everything with love. Everything here is with love. But direct, right? We're direct. And I wrote about this on, apropos Halloween ghosting.
Ah, nice.
I think employeeship at any level, but especially at the executive level, is really becoming more and more like entrepreneurship. And, I know as an entrepreneur, and I can probably put you in this boat too. You can tell me if I'm wrong or not. Entrepreneurs, we get ghosted every day. Every damn day, sometimes several times a day. And it's never okay, right? But it happens. And I feel like we have to adjust to why people are mentioning like we need a closed loop. And I feel that, believe me. But constantly expecting people to fill our souls is going to always pretty much leave us disappointed. And I don't mean to sound like something, some feudalistic person here, but like I think we have to work on why we need a closed loop and know that we have enough and I view ghosting as somebody didn't have the bandwidth or the, bravery. I was going to use another word, but I don't want to be inappropriate. They either don't have the bandwidth or the bravery to give me bad news. And that's on them. So therefore that was the way the universe decided to tell me I wasn't the right person for that particular candidate or that particular job, and that means I have to keep my pipeline full so I always have other opportunities to look at. I think ghosting hurts people when they've been putting all their eggs in a basket and they don't have a lot of pipeline. I don't know what you think, but that's how I deal with it because honestly I got to get up every day. you know
No, I love the holiday themes reference. The eggs in the basket, the ghosting. I love all of that. The Halloween theme was amazing. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship and employeeship are you are all we are all running our own business. And this is about income continuity. How do you keep your income continuous? You need to keep your network primed, you need to keep your skills updated, and you need to anticipate insecurity, right? And that's personally how I deal with it. But like, you know,
So it's almost the ghosting, in a sense, to me, is almost like when people tell you they're not interested, or they went with another candidate, or they don't
right.
have it. Sometimes a no isn't a never.
That's true
So,
too.
so I know recruiters that to you may not want to tell somebody they weren't the person because they may have been their candidate of choice, and they could be working on another opportunity, and they don't want to necessarily let
Cut
you
you
free up,
loose.
right, to cut you loose yet. So that happens. Trust me, it happens.
Some are, Yossi, Edward. So if the process slows down, are you advocating we do nothing or should we reach out to the recruiter? I mean, look, this is a case by case scenario, right? Sometimes you reach out, sometimes it doesn't matter if you do. Sometimes it will matter if you do. Like there's no universal book of how to handle recruitment or how to handle your job search. I say trust your gut, right? If you're not going to hire somebody like us, trust your gut. If you're and if you re, But the key is to always keep your pipeline full. Even when clients of mine have landed jobs and have an offer letter signed with a start date, I still tell them to keep networking. I'm like, you literally do not pause your networking until you walk into the office, literally, virtually or otherwise. I said, and even when you walk in the office, you should keep your network nurtured on a regular basis, even after you're employed. So I find that people panic when they don't have options. And if somebody's moving slowly, you shouldn't be panicked because you should have other things going. But if you're only got that going, then yeah, I can understand you panicked. But
You
that's
know,
something we can control as the candidate. We're still putting all of our expectation in that company, and it's not going to serve us well.
Something else we that candidates can control. You have to close every interview with getting some information about next steps
Hmm.
and how to move forward accordingly.
Right.
So if you closed enough that you positioned yourself like, hey, if I don't hear from you in the next, I don't know, 3 business days, 5 business days, what would be the best way to reach out to get some information about an update or anything of
Right.
that? So how you close it often can prevent the ghosting because if a recruiter looks you in the eyes and says, you know what, reach back out to me in three business days. I should have some
Hmm.
information. Then you call them. You might get an email back. You might not, but at
Right.
least you held your end of that, and that's all you can do.
No, and you might not. I just want to emphasize that. Like, and when you're writing that follow-up email, my suggestion to our clients is do not put expectation in there. Do not say like, give me an ant like, do you have anything available? Do you know what the process is? Like, where are you at with the process? Can you give me an answer? Like anything that's expecting a reply, you run the risk of not getting that reply and now you are mentally dejected, right? Whereas if you write it in a way that's, hi, I'm just staying on the radar. I literally call it the stay on the radar email, right? I'm just staying on your radar, reiterating my interest. I know when you have an update, you will get back to me, but I wanted to stay top of mind. That's it. Like maybe add something from the conversation you had or something in the news you saw, whatever. But like that's it. Now you just send it, you put it to the universe. You are not expecting anything back. That's how you take control of your mental capacity. But if you constantly put your crap in other people's baskets, expecting them to give it back to you, it's never going to happen. And that's what makes us dejected. But don't expect something back. Just put it to the universe that you're reaching out. But like you said, I want to reiterate what Ken said. You might not get a response, and that is okay. Nobody owes you a closed loop.
And sometimes that mindset implies that the recruiter doesn't want to fill the position. It's their job to fill the position. So
Yeah.
trust me, if if they're
Yeah.
interested in the position and the hiring managers are moving accordingly, they will be back in touch with you in due time.
Right. And Kim has a great point. It's not good though when you've interviewed with three people and you get ghosted. We're not here to say that ghosting is ever okay. We're here to say accept that it happens and have a tool set that helps you deal with it better that doesn't affect your mentality. And that's having a pipeline, reaching out without expectation, and let me reiterate, have a pipeline. Because if you have a pipeline, it doesn't mean you won't be disappointed, but you at least know you got other things. Expecting ghosting to stop or get righteous about it that it's wrong is not helping anybody,
So,
you know. So, you know, what we're going to go on to next is how to I'm just going to my list here. I usually have two screens and
okay.
traveling, so I'm just doing this a little manually. But the value, I want to talk about like how people aren't anticipating the problem. Like they're worried about problems they don't have yet, right? Like you mentioned the job hugging earlier. Um, how can job hugging paralyze your career? And why it doesn't mean you need to start looking automatically, but how do you not stay stagnant even when things are challenging?
I think it goes back to what we were speaking about in the beginning, right? Movement is momentum. And if
Right.
you're job hugging, you kind of are putting blinders on yourself.
Yes.
So I guess if you look at the other side of job hugging would be being in a perpetual job search, right? Or just making yourself available. Let's say that. And what comes with availability? You start
Right.
knowing what's out there. You get information. Most people that are job hugging have no information about what else is
Right.
happening out there. But the people that are active, you have more information, and more information will make you better in your career as a leader. You'll start to see, oh, I see things are headed in this direction, and you'll get ahead of it. And sometimes you can position yourself as a leader in that particular area, right? And if it's a valuable area, just think about the people that jumped on the AI bandwagon early
Right.
and how valuable they got in that landscape and able to move, especially as the tech companies were ramping up, right? So if you were job hugging and not looking around and seeing what was happening in the workplace, you'll miss the wave,
Right.
and you never want to miss the wave.
And that's the fear of the unknown is what you mentioned, earlier, and what you mentioned during our pre-time. If whatever you're afraid of, it's exactly what you need to pursue and tackle, right? And if you're afraid of AI, then go take an AI class, or start dedicating 2 hours a week to just playing around with it. Because then you'll be able to talk more freely about it and more from experience. Um, network with people that are doing that, you know, f- pioneering type of work, and they'll be more than happy. Most of them will be more than happy to talk to you because they want people to spread the message. And that'll help diversify your network too.
Listen, Lisa, people talk about job hugging and they often are thinking about an external opportunity.
Hmm.
People are internally job hugging. They're not looking up either, right?
Right.
So often you just have to make yourself available for stretch opportunities. I call it staying T-shaped, right? That
Yeah.
vertical line is the skill set that you have, but then,
Hmm.
what are you doing to make relationships with other areas of the business? Very important as you want to grow into an effective and impactful leader. How are you seen throughout the organization? So sometimes people can job hug within their own organization and not look for other opportunities.
And that's so true. And if you're job hugging because of the fear of what you lose, what you may lose, you run the risk of being blindsided by all the change that's happening that will eventually make you probably lose what you have anyway. It becomes a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy if you're not developing your network and developing your skill set, and you're just staying with it out of fear and not developing yourself. It would, like, I can guarantee this, right? And you probably can too. Something's going to change. It always does, right?
Inevitably.
And if you got it good for now, that's great. Be grateful for it, but the odds are of it staying that way are probably small, especially if you don't take the time to preserve it by nurturing your network and nurturing your skills. If you do nothing and think it's going to stay, that's probably not going to happen because the rest of the world is moving around you. Um, what I know we still have some time and some questions left, but what haven't we talked about that we should be talking about before I go back to my list?
I think your list was amazing, right? But I know one of the things you had asked me about pre is, so the difference between in-house recruiters
Yes.
and third-party recruiters, right? So, every time I speak about that, I always pitch it as, in-house, reactive, right? Filling roles for one company, reacting, there's an opening, let's fill. And, external, kind of proactive. Of course, I'm
Hmm.
going to say that because that's the work I do, but understanding industries, networks, executive ecosystems, we're in-house recruiters are filling positions. I believe firms like East Coast Executives, our
Hmm.
whole thing is building partnerships. We want long-lasting relationships. So I'm really studying the business and trying to figure out what's next. Because as I find talent, I want to curate their leadership pipeline, right?
Yeah.
And I think, that's the mindset that we go into our relationships with. So it's just kind of providing perspective, not just placement. And I think that's the brand strategy.
And then, when you're not placing a candidate, right? Because let's face it, only 10 to 15% of hires happen through third-party recruiters. I've been told by other recruiters that maybe in a good year, they're maybe placing 5% of the candidates that they speak to, right? So third-party recruiting is not the main way of getting hired for most people. What do you advise when you have a good candidate that you know you're not going to be able to place simply because you don't have the opportunity? It's not any reflection of their caliber of a candidate. Like, what's your advice to them to stay
Yeah,
relevant?
yeah, I try to, especially relevant in our ecosystem, with us,
Hmm.
because if I have a good candidate,
Right.
I want to produce a result. So I always share with them, our work isn't transactional; it's
Hmm.
transformational. I'm advising them in the organizations on how to align leadership with culture, community, and
Hmm.
capacity. So I always advise them to continue to do the skill set assessment, right? Their
Hmm.
own personal self-evaluation and then also think about what it is that you really want to do. I think once you get to a certain level, you can really pick and hone in on your core skill sets, the things that you love to do, because you have a team that can do all the other stuff, right? If you hire well. So with that, I always, just speak to them about as they navigate the executive market, they just have to understand that visibility equals viability, and I think that's the one thing that I try to drive home. The
How
the
do people, what
the
was that
market
last part? The
the
drive home?
market's the market's always going to reward those that stay engaged.
Yes.
So I think that's important.
And stay engaged. And I think that's then their authentic uniqueness, right? Like, I think there's a lot of use of AI on the candidate side. I would imagine you see some of this. You know, how, what are the ups and downs or, pros and cons of using AI as a candidate?
I think that so tomorrow, actually, this is interesting. So tomorrow on the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, we have a conversation called AI, your co-pilot, not autopilot.
Yeah.
I think that's the question and the answer. You have to use it as a co-pilot. You can't depend on it to do the work for you. Don't say, "Hey, create a resume that will help me land this opportunity," and then take what it gives you, because it's not a finished product yet, right? But guess what is almost a finished product? An executive. You're
Yeah.
working through, and you know more than that system about your own personal skill sets and how to secure the job. So I think, the best opportunities rarely show up on the job boards. They live in conversations and connections and, credibility, right? So you have to be in circulation to stay in consideration. I always talk about that. So as you're using some of these AI models or whatever it may be, just remember that you're still going to have to to do the work and tell your story. And the best way to tell your story is to go back to what we talked about, the trust and the empathy and the truth and the impact.
The impact, that's key. You know, how you find candidates. Do you ever use job postings?
No.
I want everybody to
So,
note that,
so yeah. We don't,
because I've also been hired into jobs 3 times that were never posted. And, people have been asking about networking and, the ghosting. And if you network with somebody, right, or you get found because you have a digital presence, you're going to be in a smaller pool of consideration, a smaller pool of candidates consideration. If you're mainly doing job postings and keyword optimizing and doing all the tools and the things, well, guess what? You're one of usually 500 to 2,000 applicants. So it's going to be harder to get noticed. And if you're, relying on AI to position you, you might play the keyword game well, but then you don't know how to position yourself to beat out those 2,000 people who have already applied. But only 20 to 25% of hires happen through job postings. So that's another way to combat ghosting, is to change the way you look and put yourself in smaller pools of consideration, because then it's easier to get it back to you.
very valid point there. And I'm not going to say people don't get jobs from job boards, but
No, no. But
if you
it
think
shouldn't
about it,
be your
yeah,
whole how
no.
you spend your time.
Well, and what I was going to add is if you think about it, most recruiters will tell you by the time that job hits the job board, they already have candidates in their inbox. Like there's a search going on. I don't, we used to use the term hidden job market, but
Yes.
typically I've received the call that the opportunity exists. And if they're working with a third party recruitment firm like us, we have it and they've made a commitment for us to fill it. Also, the hiring manager, they're tired of doing the work. So they're out kind of passively recruiting their networks to see if somebody's out there. So yeah, by the time that job hits the job board, it's been around. So you're a little late on it. So I say try to stay ahead of that process. And the way you stay ahead of that is by actively engaging on LinkedIn, connecting, having conversations, networking, doing all the things that you may be reluctant to do, but wow, do they pay off in the long run?
They absolutely pay off. They absolutely pay off. And mm, the networking, like it's people say it takes, like when I start to train people on how to do it, they're like, this is going to take a long time. I'm like, it's not going to take as long once you start to learn how to do it and get comfortable with the way that you can do it than it is for the 6-month gap you might have in your background because you've been applying to job boards only, or mostly. So it's how do you want to spend the time? And more importantly, that network person you met 4 months in might be the person who gets you the next job after this immediate job that you get, right? So like it really is an investment in yourself in terms of the effort to do, and it absolutely pays off.
Listen, Lisa, we've had recruiters that we were working with at companies and we pitched candidates to, or we've had candidates come through our process. And when they left their organization and went to another company, they've called us and said, hey, remember the person we saw? I think they would work perfect over here, or I need
Right,
somebody over here, right? They don't want to purge from their own company, but they
right,
knew that they saw a solid candidate in our process. And so with that being said, like those are the things. Way before it hits the job board, they're
right.
building their team before they even get over to the next stop.
Yes, absolutely. Like that's to me the residual exponential benefits of all this. Like
Yes.
when recruiters are kind to candidates, this is how I frankly got into the resume writing business 17 years ago. I used to do the resumes, even though I wasn't supposed to, because I'm supposed to focus on fee-based things and doing resumes of people I'm not going to place or not going to make me any money. But I love doing them. So, but being nice to people, they come back to you when they actually have a job offer, even though you didn't place them because you were nice to them. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Listen,
Um, I want
gentlemen,
to just quickly, because I know a few people have asked if you don't have the two present positions, are you on your LinkedIn profile because you don't have a current employer? Are you getting skipped over? You are getting skipped over if a recruiter is using LinkedIn Recruiter, the license. So Krista is going to, she knows what I'm going to ask here. Krista is going to put the link to the video that I have. If you want to Google it yourself, if you do LinkedIn, PSA, Chameleon resumes, YouTube, you will, if you Google this, I just spelled YouTube wrong, but you guys can all figure that out. You will find the video. Krista will find the video probably and put it in here before the end of the session, but that will help you how to put a to present position because LinkedIn Recruiter has an ability to search on people who have a current position, whether it's by title, a keyword, a current employer, the name of the employer. And so if you don't have a current position, you're not going to come up in that search. And it's an unemployment bias that exists in LinkedIn, but it is what it is. And you just have to accept it. And then here's the tactic that we're on the video that shows you how to fix it. Um,
I'm
so I
going to
have,
watch that video myself. I need to watch that video. I
okay, well,
love
there you go.
it.
We're gonna put it in the maybe we can put it in a follow-up email today, Krista, too. So we'll put that in there because we want everybody to get found. Because have again, it's about having the digital presence, right? So you can be discovered and be found in ways that, may not involve a job posting. Um, the question here, I have a question here that I do want to ask, and it's actually nothing we talked about in the prep or anything else, but Doug has a question. I don't know. Let's see, where are we? Um, where's Doug? Where'd it go? Uh, can we talk a little bit about diversity? How are things changing given the current administration? This is not a political discussion, but I, I mean, you're the master at this, Kenneth. But I feel like good talent's always going to be needed, no matter what anybody looks like. So therefore, your services are always in demand. But you ask accordingly, answer accordingly.
Yeah, Doug, the pushback is real. I won't deny that. I won't sugarcoat that or anything. The pushback is real. We see it. But to Lisa's point, I think the companies that are committed to having the top talent and the top teams, and I won't go into the business case for diverse teams and all of that, but it's viable, it's proven, and I think the people that are open to that conversation are the people that are still operating maybe under a different guise. It might be equity, it might be belonging, it might be called something else, but people are still operating in good faith and hiring the talent that's available and presented. And we have to lean on that. Everybody has a right to do what it is that they choose to do. But yeah, it's real. But we're going to keep going, man. We're trying to get the best talent, no matter who it is, into the right opportunities for our client companies. That's the business we're really in, and
Yeah, and
happy to
that's
be.
it. And AI, frankly, is helping find candidates that wouldn't otherwise be considered because they maybe don't have a profile posted or they don't have, it's just it allows you to find other people that wouldn't normally be considered, but they still have to go through the same process. So the best is going to be the best no matter, what it ends up being. So that was a great question to ask, and I'm glad we talked about it. Some are talking about how do you look for consulting while looking, or contract work or while you're looking to your full-time job and maybe how that is viewed by employers. Like, what are your take on when somebody's been consulting, still looking for the full-time role? Like, how's that viewed by employers? How's it viewed by recruiters?
Yeah, I think you said it earlier, Lisa. Well, I guess in different words, but we're all a business of one. We're all entrepreneurs out here.
Hmm.
I think there are it's a subset of companies and recruiters that respect that. I had Brian Honigman on the show. I guess that was last Monday, and he specifically supports people that are looking to leverage freelance opportunities along with their current employment. Right?
Hmm.
Uh, Listen, sometimes you have some skill sets that are valuable to the marketplace and you have
Hmm.
the time to use them. I don't think people frown on that at all. In fact, a big piece of the conversation we had last Thursday was about using LinkedIn and the things you do outside of work to still amplify your organization and the work you do as well, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's the world we live in now. People are almost free agents in some sense.
Hmm.
They need to showcase what they do and how they do it. And thank goodness we have platforms that allow us to do that. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all.
And the thing is though, I know, they will never say this out loud, but I know employers and contract recruiters that have a problem with it. They view it as like you're inconsistent, you're selling short. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I have to believe if you didn't learn it in 2009, right, when everything collapsed in New York, and globally, then we had to learn it during COVID. Like in the end, people have to eat, play the bills, and whatever they do to do that, I think it shows a hustle. And anything that you view as a negative in your background, that is the exact thing you need to be prepared for. And that's the exact interview question to be prepared for. And I think if you talk about your consulting experience like with shame, or your body language is like, they're going to ask me about it. I don't know what to say. They're going to think I'm selling myself short. Well, guess what? They're going to probably think that you're not proud of it, and or there's something wrong with it. But if you're proud of it and you're just like, this is what I got to do, and when I got to hustle, and ideally I'd like this, but this is what I did in the interim, and I didn't let it hold me back. And your attitude about your consulting will sell you better than anything else anybody thinks about your consulting. So the key is to own it and prepare for it, and know that there's always going to be somebody who's going to look upon what you do poorly.
Listen, own it, prepare for it, and still know that you can still use behavioral based interview techniques to get through
Yeah,
that question. Like to start
absolutely.
situation, task, action, result, because then you're giving a clear line to why you did it and where the impact was that you had in doing it. And you can always tie that back into the things you do in your full time role, right? So, yeah, it's just how you answer it.
Yeah, and I view that when somebody says that about you, they just told you who they are, and they just told you that you're not their people, right? And that's fine. So, because I've had clients that are work at somewhere for 24 years, and then recruiters look at that negatively, like, oh, you didn't take any change. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, so like everything, if somebody wants to see something negative, they're going to see it. Don't take the bait. And when they pursue what you've done is negative, that's the world telling you you're not their people. And that's okay. And you found that out before you joined the company. So you take a stand in the greatness that that you have. And that to me is really what Kenneth embodies. And that's why I was really honored to have you on the show today. Um, I know we only got a minute or two left. Anything you want to leave the group, or how they can reach out to you, or anything we can share in that sense?
Yeah, no, sure. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to spend this time with you. Always is. I really appreciate and love your work. You are a true beacon of all that's good about the things we do in this space. So thank you so very much for doing what you do and offering me the opportunity to be here. Look, you can stay connected with me at eastcoastexecutives.com. That's kind of where I live. I'm on LinkedIn, so please, I hope I get connection invites out of this opportunity. I'm always looking to just build relationships and networks. We're not really chasing placements at East Coast Executives. We're shaping possibilities. I always share that with my team. I had a conversation with Lisa and we talked about doubling down on people. I'm completely locked into that because even in the
Amen.
age of AI, relationships remain undefeated. So please reach out. Let's connect. And hopefully you can leverage the services of East Coast Executives. We're here for you.
Thank you all for joining us. I always take your times out of your day with honor and never for granted. So thank you for spending your time with us, and reach out to us afterwards, and have a great day.